What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with 8.5 weeks out physique update from the conqueror William Bonac, one of the most accomplished bodybuilders in this year's Olympia lineup, and undoubtedly one of the most successful bodybuilders of this year so far. Now, he did win only one pro show, the Detroit Pro, but he placed extremely well in all these other shows like the Pittsburgh Pro, Dubai Pro and the New York Pro. And he made some handsome amount of money. And that was actually one of the major goals, to make the maximum amount of financial gains. So this is Bonac's first week of this year's Olympia prep, with only one goal in his mind, and that is beating his personal best at this upcoming Mr. Olympia. And that is going to be enough to land him again in the 7th to 9th spots, which is gonna be a huge accomplishment, because the kind of polish and the muscle maturity that William Bonac has, it is still pretty damn good to hold off these younger up-and-coming guys who are working very hard to move up in those Olympia ranks. So William Bonac is one of the oldest guy in this year's Olympia lineup, if not the oldest. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that his physique isn't showing signs of slowing down, especially in terms of that midsection and his waistline, which has become wider over the years. The arms aren't also as bubbly as they used to be back in his prime, but the quads have looked the best they have ever been this year. I'm gonna say they looked even better this year compared to how they looked when he placed second at the Olympia back in 2019. But that's the power of consistency that William Bonac has. He's still beating guys half his age. So he was top 7 at the Olympia last year. Can you repeat that same placing? Or where do you guys see him finishing at the Olympia this year? Before you scroll or blink too hard, have you subscribed yet? Please don't make me bring out the emotional blackmail. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon. It's free, it's painless, and that makes me look way cooler than I actually am. So many people saw this poster on the BTS TV on IG and they got very confused. Without going over the entire clip from the Cutler cast, that Jordan Hutchinson, the Tampa and Texas Pro champion from this year, he's gonna be pushing for the top 4 at the Olympia. Well, the fact is Jay Cutler actually said, if he's able to make the improvements, then it might happen next year. Still, that is a big praise coming from one of the legends of the entire bodybuilding history, one of the greatest Mr. Olympia of all time. And this is gonna be enough to motivate Jordan to push harder than ever before. But at the same time, that's going to put more pressure on him. Because the fact is, even for next year, we know top 4 is a very big stretch. Because just look at the guys who are our potential top 4. Derek, Hardy, Samson and the Mutant. They are just simply in a different league altogether. Now put Andrew Jack and Martin Fitzwater in there. The picture becomes so much more clear. We know Andrew Jack is probably one of the most gifted athletes that we have ever seen. So the top 4 for Jordan Hutchinson, even for next year, that seems very unrealistic at this point. But that is the case until you see these crazy transformation pictures from last year to this year of Jordan. Now just imagine if he keeps on adding more muscle, more mass, and that too at this pace, and him putting on this much density for another year. Now if that happens, he becomes a totally different bodybuilder than what we are seeing today. I mean, the guy this time had more width, more pop, while at the same time having very similar aesthetics. And he has now also proved that he has the ability to be amongst the most shredded bodybuilders in the entire men's open. And I am pretty certain he is going to be one of those guys in this year's Olympia lineup who's gonna have the most shredded glutes and hamstrings. And let's be very real here. He was able to knock off a much bigger frame, a more aesthetic bodybuilder like Quentin Beastwood, and that too in such a dominating fashion. Now for this year, a top 10. That is more of a realistic expectation for him. But where do you guys see Jordan placing at the Olympia next year? Especially if he makes a similar kind of transformation. Next up, we have 8.5 weeks out physique update from Rubiel Mosquera, aka Nexzilla, the guy who won the Italy Pro and Portugal Pro, and one of the most exciting pros who is going to be making his Olympia debut in October. Now there are guys in this year's men's open lineup who are looking way leaner Then Rubiel at 8.5 weeks out. But this right here is a good condition for him. And considering that he had a very long grueling prep, his body did need a break to reset, recover, and detox. Now we know the Olympia is and always will be a big boy show. And Rubiel, we all know, has all the tools to wow the judges and the crowd come Olympia in October. Now if he beats his Portugal Pro look, especially in terms of conditioning, he's gonna be a very dangerous bodybuilder. Now it will be kind of unfair to expect Rubiel to make some improvements, especially in terms of more muscle in his weak areas, because the time span between the Portugal Pro and the Olympia, that is very little. He did not have any off-season. But then again, there is one aspect where Rubiel can make some big improvements still. The level of conditioning and the detail. As all the experts out there agreed that there is still room for Rubiel to improve in that aspect. Now after Nick Walker, Rubiel is the biggest freak in this year's Olympia lineup. And after Samson Dauda and Andrew Jack, he's going to be the heaviest guy on this year's Olympia stage, with the biggest quads in that entire lineup. So let's just all hope he can bring more separation, a bit more separation in his quads from the front, because that is going to change the entire look of Rubiel Mosquera from the front. That is gonna make him so much more dangerous. Another guy who has the potential to break into that top 10 if he brings his 100%. So Derek Lunsford was spotted today doing some heavy hamstrings work. So he does look pretty damn lean, and that isn't surprising for Derek one bit, because those are the standards set by Derek. Now there hasn't been a single point since his Pittsburgh Pro guest posing in 2022, the one guest posing that just changed his entire career. So the point was, the man has never been out of shape since the Pittsburgh Pro 2022. Although he has taken full years solely to focus on the off-season and bringing up his physique, and focusing on just one show, the Olympia, until last year. This year is totally different for him. He's coming off the Arnold and the Pittsburgh Pro wins, and based on the only progress pictures that he posted a couple of days back, he looked pretty damn awesome, and in an ideal case scenario for him, he would be a few pounds bigger come Olympia this year. But the fact is, that will not guarantee the win for him at the Olympia. So his best chance of winning the Olympia, that is by bringing that hard and dry look that we saw from him at the Arnold, Ohio. That is going to be Derek's best shot, because that was one hell of a package by him and Chris Aceto, and the man looked really special in that show. And that is the only way you beat a reigning Olympia champion who outweighs you by 50 plus pounds. So Derek must have had a very hard time recovering from that third place finish last year, that too in his first ever title defense. But this has been his road to redemption, and so far the man has won 2 of the biggest shows this year, and he is going for the biggest one now.
2026 is going to be a better year. You know, we're going to take a time, work on some lacking body parts, improve a lot of things that, you know, I need to improve. So I think we have enough time. So that's what we're going to keep doing.
Next up is the official announcement from Blessing Avudibu. So he's going to take some time off to fix some lagging body parts, which only means one thing: the man is done for this year's competition season. So this decision pretty much proves that him showing up off at the Legion Sports, the only show that he did this year, there wasn't an issue of a missed time peak. Yes, I know he obviously came in way off for that show, but more importantly, his coach Stefan, he was spot on when he said the difference in the overall muscularity top to bottom, that is simply way too much, that it isn't fixable in just a matter of a few weeks. So it's gonna take at least a few more months, which raises another serious concern for Blessing. Why wasn't he able to make any significant improvements, especially in his lower half, in almost 2 years? If you guys remember the Italy Pro back in 2023, that was the last show that he did prior to the Legion Sports this year, and he went up to 320 pounds in this past off season. And let's just make one thing very clear: going to such a heavy body weight, that is way harder for majority of the pros out there compared to someone like Samson Dauda or Andrew Jack, because of the amount of food they have to intake in order to keep on pushing their weight up. Only a few guys like Samson, they have this crazy metabolism where he doesn't have to eat a lot of food in order to be that big. Even Andrew Jack, he absolutely hates that. So Blessing has a huge challenge ahead of him, and that is to grow his legs, bring up his lower half. And we are really curious what his partnership with Chris Cormier as his trainer brings to the table next year. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.